Hello, and welcome to another episode of Crazy Thoughts, the show where yours truly talks about games they've played in a manner that is easily digestible for those who haven't already clicked off the video in favor of a 3-hour video about knives. Today's episode, which was recorded, edited, and posted 2 months into 2022, will see yours truly talk about some games from the previous year that they didn't get a chance to talk about, as well as a few other ones they thought were kind of interesting. Apologies for anyone who was expecting him to talk about Sifu or whatever, but it ain't happening here, so we'd recommend you sit fu and listen to him jabber on about crap that pretty much no one cares about. But you might even hear some opinions that one would call controversial, and who doesn't love a good controversy? So let's get started with one of the most critically derided games from the previous year. It fucking sucks! It fucking sucks! It fucking sucks so fucking much! I fucking hate this game so much! Terrible! Okay, alright, okay, you can stop now. Thank you for your input. Balan Wonderworld. The newest creation from the legendary, depending on who you ask, Yuji Naka. One of the main brains behind the also legendary, depending on who you ask, Sonic the Hedgehog and Nights into Dreams. I can't imagine which one had more influence. Now, for as stupid as this may sound, I was actually looking forward to this. Not because I've played Nights into Dreams, which I haven't. But I have played one of the other games he's worked on in a similar Knights-inspired vein, Rodea the Sky Soldier. The Wii version, specifically. I.e. the good one. That game has its own messy development history that I'll get to one day, but I still had some decent expectations for this that were swiftly dashed when I saw that the main developer behind Balan Wonderworld was RZest, who don't exactly have the best track record when it comes to platformers. And my worries were confirmed once I played the demo on PS5, which I thought was just meh. And upon release, I witnessed the horrific backlash. Then after a week or so, I and everyone else forgot about the game, and just before the year ended, I decided to get it on a sale and just see what all the hubbub was about. Was the small amount of excitement that I had for this game warranted in any way? Or was everyone else right about it and it's a trash fire? You know, at first I didn't think Balan Wonderworld was all that bad. I really like how the game looks and sounds, and the levels were very simple, but it made for an easygoing romp. I didn't even mind the costume mechanics that much, or the weird story bits told in between levels, and I did manage to find a good groove with collecting those Balan statues you need to unlock more levels. So yeah, I was having a decent time with this for about 75% of the game, and then those last 3 worlds came and everything fell apart. The level design, the costume, the enemies, the bosses, everything just got annoying. Very, very annoying. In fact, so annoying, I pretty much just rushed those last few worlds and, unsurprisingly, found myself a few Balan statues short of unlocking the final boss. And with that, I started asking the real questions here with you. Why do so many of the costumes repeat their mechanics? Why are so many of them contextual and only necessary for 1 or 2 sections of a single level? Why can't we permanently keep them instead of stocking them up? And why are the story bits all over the place? So much so there's a story here about some insecure prick who lost one chess game, and then another story about a girl losing the love of her life because she can't move past her parents' untimely demise? And why is Balan only playable with those shitty QuickTime events that you need to be perfect at in order to get the Balan statue at the end? To me, this feels like if Yuji Naka had directed Mario Odyssey. Imagine if the only move Mario had in that game was that he could jump once, and then every Cappy transformation would get lost after a single hit. 90% of the moons in that game are only obtainable with one of those transformations in one part of those levels, and the final boss is 50 times lamer. So yeah, 75% of the game is just fine, and I still don't think it's the big dumpster fire that everyone else has been calling it. The redeeming qualities it has here were just enough to get me to the end. but I'm never going to play it again. And we will likely never see Balan again, thanks to the poor sales, and, well, Yuji Naka leaving his company, and possibly retiring from video games forever. And to that I say... Now, as for where Balan Wonderworld would rank among the games from 2021 that I played, yeah, it would hit rock bottom. Like, say what you want about these two games, but I think they're both slightly more interesting by themselves than Balan ever could be. Speaking of the PS Quintuple, I'm gonna be real with y'all, if it weren't for the PS4 backwards compatibility, I would not have gotten that thing. That means I also wouldn't have pulled an all-nighter in my month-long quest to get the fucking thing. But let's not dwell on our mistakes. But since I do have it, I figured I may as well get some use out of it, so in addition to picking up Balan Wonderworld on sale, I also picked up the one exclusive that looked interesting to me, that being Returnal. This game was developed by House Marquee, who've been around for quite a while and have had a good relationship with Sony over the past decade, which they've since consummated into a happy marriage. Congratulations. But of course, what really interested me was its gameplay revolving around a time loop, and in case you forgot, there were a bunch of those kinds of games released in 2021, one of which we covered in the last episode. I had a feeling this was going to be a much more positive experience than that one ended up being, though, especially now that it's been patched to shit and all the bugs have been scrubbed, most of them. But with all that said, how did Returnal turn out? Yeah, it's a pretty good game. Pretty good game. While I've seen people describe this as a roguelike Metroid Prime, I feel like describing it in that manner doesn't do the game any justice. I mean, yeah, there are similarities between the two. I mean, it has an explorative nature like Prime or any other Metroid game out there. It has really intense combat like this game does. It has the permanent upgrades, a female protagonist, even scannable logs and items. But there is one distinct difference between this game and my favorite game of all time, and that's how my favorite game of all time isn't some impossible suicide run. Going back to the time loop mechanic, which is what really distinguishes this game from the other one, I think this is the best implementation of that kind of mechanic I've seen in any game I've played with those kinds of mechanics. But these two do have one true thing in common. And that's how both of our ladies are completely alone. There's no one to talk to, no one to help her, and no one to convince that they're trapped in purgatory. Because that's what this is. Purgatory. And what narrative there is, while a little obtuse, I believe also works well with this structure. Especially when the game switches to first person and suddenly plays like one of the endless survival horror games on Steam. As for the actual third-person shooting gameplay, yes, it is extremely difficult, and like with many roguelikes, there's a fair amount of chance and luck involved, with what weapons that you get, which rooms you encounter, what bullshit enemies you have to deal with. Death is frequent here, but never once did I feel like it was the game's fault. And for as frustrating as it got at times, the incredibly smooth controls and movement always managed to pull me back in so I could give it another go. And I usually don't seek out these balls-to-the-wall hard games, so for it to do that and keep me playing long after the credits so I can get that platinum trophy is a testament to the fantastic mechanics on display here. Side note, going after that, has even more luck and chance involved, so unless you're as enthralled with the game as I was, I wouldn't recommend it. If you do though, keep in mind only the collectible logs and symbols, or whatever they're called, count towards the platinum trophy. The weapon upgrades, countless weapon upgrades, they don't do shit. Overall though, great game. And as for where it would land in the ranking here, yeah, sorry Village, you're pretty good, but you're not Returnal good. Now I just gotta delete a couple tweets here, and my internet cred will go up tenfold. As I'm sure y'all can relate to, I have a swath of Steam games that I have never gotten around to. And at the start of every year, I try to go through at least some of them to moderate to no success. But the cycle always repeats itself, so once again I started to chip away at that backlog, and I began with a little game I had been interested in for quite some time but just never got around to, Code of Princess. Originally published on the 3DS in late 2012, this is an action RPG that looks like something straight out of the 5th generation of consoles, except with a modern twist by way of, yeah. So I went in expecting a dumb, silly, goofy, dumb, stupid time, and that's exactly what I got. Now, I'll freely admit the real reason I was interested in this game was because it had character designs by Kinu Nishimura, who has worked on a bunch of shit in the past, but to me was important because she had done the character designs for the first Yu-Zero Escape games. And, you can tell. As it turns out, though, she was also responsible for the game's plot, which by itself is the most generic fantasy story possible, but she injected quite a bit of humor and self-referential fourth-wall-breaking stuff that Atlus, the game's initial publisher, did a fantastic job localizing. You might be tempted to think that Atlus had made this even goofier than intended, but one of the characters is a jester whose weapon is a fucking star guitar straight out of the 80s, so that's how this was always going to turn out. It does veer a little bit too much into the whole, oh, well, I guess we're doing this now, oh man, isn't this weird, kind of humor, but this dialogue was the main driving force for me to keep playing the game, and I honestly recommend this game just based off of that alone, because the actual gameplay leaves a whole lot to be desired. Remember how I said the game looked like something out of the 5th generation? Well, it also plays like something out of the 5th generation, as Code of Princess is essentially a much faster but no less chaotic spiritual successor to Guardian Heroes for the Sega Saturn. Both games have you play as one of several main characters, and both sport a hack-and-slash style combat system played out on levels that feature 3 separate lanes that characters can jump back and forth and to and from. Now, I do think this is a cool concept, I think it's implemented well, but that doesn't change how messy this combat can get. Like, you have your combos, your special moves, your blocks, your broken attacks that you spam when the game gets too bullshit, and it gets bullshit very fast. But even with how short these levels and missions were, I was just not hooked with it. I mean, I did try playing as some of the other characters besides the main girl, but they weren't clicking with me either, which is funny because the game wants you to go through the main campaign with each of these characters to see how their individual stories play out. And that doesn't really change or add anything to the plot because they are all together by the end. And even then, the game still gives you a choice between 2 endings that, with how goofy the story is, it's a little bit difficult to be invested to really care. Regardless, the game isn't that difficult if you level up your characters enough, and you can just spam all those combos and win pretty much every fight. And I would still recommend giving this version a shot, because it usually goes for pretty cheap on Steam. You can get the Code of Princess EX version, but that one's published by Nicholas, and, well, you know my thoughts about them, so... Hell, the 3DS version is still up on the eShop. And you might even want to if you want to hear the English localization fully voiced, because that's the only way you're gonna hear it. So essentially another game to add to the list before the eShop completely falls apart. It's that, all the Shin Megami Tensei games. What else is there? Oh yeah, Unchained Blades. Am I a horny bastard? Fucking sucked! It fucking sucked so fucking. Okay, alright, cool, we get it. Alright, you can go away. Thank you. So yeah, Mario Party's back. Yay! I've not played a new Mario Party game since the days of 8 on the Wii. because every single game since then just have absolutely no interest in. I do have a copy of 10 from the Wii U, though. I don't know why. Anyway, Mario Party Superstars, a bit of a celebratory game of the series' roots, what with the remastered boards from the first few games, and pick and mix kind of variety with all the mini-games taken from everywhere, even this one. But of course, the biggest new component is online play. Gone are the days of huddling together at the TV to play with friends or family or people you just met at a party or people sharing the Airbnb you're housed in for the nearby convention who will lose everything at the very last minute and embarrass themselves and be laughed at by the rest of us. We can now experience Mario Party in a way that has never been seen before, through subpar internet connections, and without the risk of its players getting arrested. So it's been a couple months since Superstars hit the stores and sold gangbusters, and I've put in quite a few rounds with friends, and I can definitely say that it is Mario Party. It's fine. It's alright. It's good. It's okay. NDQ have done a very good job at remaking the original formula for a newer generation with how it plays and how it looks. The balancing between strategy and outright luck is as tight as old Mario Party has always been, and by that I mean it's completely off, and that's what we all love about it. And I really like the minigame selection here. The new additions here aren't bad either. I especially like the stickers, if only because it's fun to annoy the other players with. But all that really matters here is that in one round I can get all the hidden blocks and all the stars in the world, and in the next round, I can get nothing but low rolls and be stuck at the bottom for the entire game. The spirit of Mario Party is here and fully intact. There's just one problem. This might just be my preference, but I don't have any motivation to play the game other than the main party mode and with friends. I haven't even touched the Mount Minigames mode. I think the main party stuff just gives me my fill of Mario Party, and that's good enough. I mean, of course you do that so you can accrue enough cash or coins or whatever the currency is here to unlock stuff in the shop, but you know, you can just do that by playing a bunch of those main party games. I mean, it's hardly a deal breaker, and I don't think it's just a me thing, but well, in this case, it is just me. As for where it would fall on the list of games I played in 2021, about the middle seems appropriate. Really, the only thing I want to see from here is just more boards, more mini-games. Like, if you could get the GameCube era Mario Party boards in here and the orbs mechanics as well, I would be ecstatic. So I'm going to send my 9th email to Nintendo this week asking for that, and demanding they keep the eShop open for another 15 years, or else I will go to their main company and...
Hello there folks, and welcome to a new segment on Crazy Thoughts, where I'm going to show you how to make your favorite games without all the hassle of programming or level design or slave labor that comes with it. Today we will be demonstrating how to make Odama for the GameCube. Yes, the C-Man director thought they could shroud the game's development in complete secrecy, but they were wrong. So what you want to do here is take your copy of Pinball Hall of Fame, the collection, and then use your magical time-traveling powers to send it right back to feudal Japan times. And then you're going to wait for a couple of hours, a couple of days, a couple of weeks, however long it will take. Oh! Look at that! Now, to get the full experience, we need to use our magic to make the pinball physics completely suck ass, and then scream into the microphone as loud as possible. Fucking hate this game so much!
Okay, right, yeah, go. Alright, we don't need you anymore. Okay, just to be honest, I'm not anywhere close to being done with this thing. And I don't have a terrible amount of stuff to say about it either, but I do have a terrible amount of things to say about Generation 4 of Pokemon. So let's waste the rest of the video talking about that. So it was around the mid-2000s. I'd gotten heavily into the franchise. Mainly by watching the TV show and talking about it with friends and reading the countless scholastic books based off of it, and yet never once actually touching any of the games. Oh, I wanted to play it. I really wanted to play it, but I didn't have a copy of any of the original games or a GBA or a DS, because my parents were a little strict during those times when it came to video games. So the closest thing I had to the actual game at the time was the Pokemon V Trainer handheld electronic game from Hasbro. You know, the one that came with those little Pokemon figures that you used to battle swappable gym leaders and such. Bit of a precursor to the whole Toys to Life thing, but for as stupid as it was, for people like me, that's all we had. And as you can imagine, it was not nearly enough to satiate my hunger for Pokemon, so I had to seek other outlets. And I couldn't find any other outlets, so it would just get worse and worse and worse as the years went on. It had gotten so bad that I would just drop everything whenever given the opportunity to play just a little crumb of Pokemon. A friend had even given me their copy of Leaf Green, but my stupid poison mind was so obsessed with it I failed to realize that it would not slot into my original Game Boy. And once I realized that, I fucking cried my eyes out. Not much change after Generation 4 started, and the closest I'd gotten to playing those games was reading through the official Prima Diamond and Pearl Pokédex guide, which was given to me from another friend before they had moved away forever. I'm not sure if you can tell, but I read through this thing front to back as much as I could. And then came Christmas 2008 when my brother and I were gifted the latest Nintendo handheld. Him, the red Mario one, and me, the Onyx Black, I think it's called. And I was given the first Pokemon game that I owned and didn't bum off of someone else. Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, Explorers of Time. I mean, it was okay, but it wasn't the mainline Pokemon game, so it was the worst fucking Christmas ever. But it was also just enough to tide me over for the real game, which I got a couple months later. And seeing that Palkia outlined on the title screen for the first time just brought out this indescribable joy that I will never forget. And of course, I played it to death. I would bring it everywhere I could, to family gatherings, vacations, funerals. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. So of course I lost my copy about a year afterwards. Didn't cry there, but I think I was depressed and a bit suicidal. However, I did come to my senses. I got platinum a little bit after, and the rest is history. Fast forward to 14 years later, and my interest in Pokemon has been considerably lowered. Though not enough to keep me from asking for a copy of Shining Pearl for Christmas. I had seen, heard, and immediately grew disinterested in the backlash for this, as I wanted to play the game for myself to see if it could draw me back in through nostalgia alone. And in doing so, I came to an epiphany. I don't really care for Gen 4 that much. Yeah, the generation I had entered this series with and had obsessed over through spoiler-filled reading material and was willing to defend to the death despite not having played it in so long, I don't care for it. Yeah, it established some cool stuff within the Pokemon mythos, but by and large, these games are one of the more pedestrian entries in the series. Which includes the Gen 2 remakes, which I had actually just gone through this past year. Heart Gold specifically. It's really just a personal thing. I don't care for the graphical style, this in-between 2D and 3D. Just never quite clicked until Black and White had a much more cinematic approach to it that worked far better. And because it was a lot slower than previous Pokemons and future Pokemon games, I just kind of zoned out through the majority of it. I did finish it. I did get to the credits and had a whole bunch of post-game material to go through, but I just was not really that interested. Again, it just may be me losing interest in Pokemon over the years, because... But I think even if I were to go back to those original games with a fresh state of mind, it would probably feel the same. And the newer remake does not help matters. Again, I'm not finished with it. I do plan on going through it and the post-game material, so I can't really speak for my thoughts on it as a whole. But from what I have played, and as far as remakes go, Shining Pearl is very inconsistent. Like, I appreciate the quality of life changes that cut down on a lot of the grind past games have had, even though it does make for a bit of a harsh imbalance as that game goes on, but it wasn't that big of a deal to me. And I appreciate they keep bringing over the non-teachable HMs so that you just permanently have them in your POTEX or whatever that thing is called. However, I don't appreciate how TMs are once again single-use only. Nor do I care for the changes they made to the contests and the underground, the former of which just turned into this boring DDR-esque single-round event, and the latter of which removed all those decorative items for bases, replacing them with statues you can find in the mines, which you use to increase the likelihood of a certain type of Pokemon appearing in those new hideaway areas with the random catchable Pokemon. Oh, and the traps. They removed the traps. Why did you remove the traps? They were fun. Do you not like fun? Graphically, it looks fine. I don't mind the chibi character designs as much as other people do, but wow, it does not mesh well with those dynamic camera movements. And the music, like, it's also fine, but frankly, it sounds like something that I could remake in Ableton, and I wouldn't consider that high praise. I don't know. I can't really say I'm disappointed in these remakes. More so, I'm just kind of underwhelmed. Like I said, I'm going to keep playing them, but it's very apparent that the true focus was on the Legends Arceus game. I'll get to that one eventually, but as for where this would fall in the ranking, yeah, that makes sense. You know, with lists like these, I look at this and then I look at what everyone else is playing and just keep wondering to myself, God, I should be playing more games, when that's a horrible mentality to have. Just don't try to be influenced too much as well. Play whatever you want, as long as it's not FIFA or Call of Duty. So, that will do it for this episode of Crazy Thoughts. I think we had a pretty entertaining one this time around. A little less gimmicky too, but for the next one, I'm not sure if I'll be playing any new games. I'm very much in backlog mode, as well as working on a bunch of controversy episodes. So let's just see where that leads. But thank you very much for watching this and putting up with my stupid quips. And as always, I'll see you later. But seriously, I put tape on the spine for this thing to try to keep it from falling apart, and it obviously didn't work. I read this thing so much, like even pages are falling out, it's crumpled and stupid, and God, I'm probably gonna just read this again. Just for fun.